Hi everybody. When it comes to Netflix documentaries about crime and wrongful convictions, there's no doubt about it, Making a Murderer is the jewel in the crown, as it were, for Netflix. It is their number one true crime documentary. And since Making a Murderer came out, there's been literally dozens of further documentaries, not just on wrongful convictions, but all sorts of other aspects of true crime, which have obviously changed public opinion. Certainly, once Murder in a Small Town came out, thousands of people, I think 1.5 million, watched on the Wednesday night, the first part of Murder in a Small Town. So, you know, people are finding out about these cases, being made aware of them, and welcoming the fact that there's now this sort of more public forum to discuss these cases. And as I've said before, when you're talking about wrongful convictions, you're always going to encounter the, for want of a better word, the guilters. Some of them are merely haters. You know, they just hate the fact that Stephen Avery comes from a salvage yard. They hate the fact that Luke Mitchell liked certain types of goth music, apparently. So we get Innocence Deniers that they just cannot accept. You know, it's like they can't even accept that wrongful convictions actually occur, and certainly wouldn't have a clue as to what to look for with a wrongful conviction. You know, they say, well, you know, in the case of Steve or Luke or Brendan, you know, they are where they are. You know, the police decided to arrest them. You know, they went before a judge and a jury, and they got the right decision. They got the right result. And of course, when you look at all these wrongful convictions, they sometimes do take decades and decades and decades to unravel. You know, there's cases of people in America being exonerated nearly 40 years later. It's just ludicrous how long it takes to to get to the truth and the justice of the situation, and not just for the wrongfully incarcerated, but also obviously for the victim themselves. You know, what a horrible testament to them that you know, horrible memory to the victim that you've incarcerated somebody who had nothing at all to do with it, but they're not allowed to tell you who was the perpetrators. And sometimes, as I say, it does take decades to unravel these cases. Next couple of minutes, just imagine we're on Thursday morning, okay? Breaking news, FIFA have just announced that they've looked into the 66 World Cup and have finally agreed that the third England goal did not cross the line. Therefore, that goal does no longer count, and the referee should have stopped play before the fourth goal was scored, because there were spectators on the pitch, and therefore England's World Cup win has been denied, and it's been shared between them and Germany. I can hear all of Scotland cheering at that. 55 years later, finally, they've decided to do the right thing. Isn't it interesting though, isn't it, that, you know, in the same way that you have a judge and a jury, in that game you had a referee and a linesman. And even though there was doubt as to whether the ball crossed the line, the reasonable doubt went in favour of the attacking team, as it did, of course, in 1986. Also expunged from the records is Argentina's win, because of the first goal scored by Maradona, where he claimed it was with the hand of God. Maradona, you know, sometimes a genius, but will always, for me, be remembered as a blasphemous cheat. You know, not only did he cheat, but then to try and suggest that it was something to do with God, that God is on his side, that God is also a cheat. Find that very offensive. Talking about hand of God as well, it struck me that in the Stephen Avery case, we've got Pam of God. I'd like to ask her, given the amount of fires that were being lit that week in and around the Avery salvage yard, how exactly did God point you in the direction of the RAV4? Did he appear as a burning bush next to it? As I say, it's really offensive to suggest that God would A, be a cheat, and B, in the case of Palm Sturm, be part of a scheme to frame Stephen Avery. He's got much more, he or she has got much more important things to do than help Maradona and direct Palm Sturm to planted cars. But of course, I'm joking. Results stand. Even if the referee and the linesman have made a mistake, as with the ball, did it cross the line, did it not? Did Maradona handle the ball? It's sometimes they're a bit murky. There's a bit of doubt about the ball crossing the line, but there's no doubt about Maradona handling the ball. But as I say, people like finality. They like the fact that once that decision has been made, you stick with it. And the problem is you get a lot of that in the wrongful conviction, the world of wrongful convictions. They say, well, the person had the trial, they were found guilty, end of. They are the innocence deniers. In America, you've even got crazy situations where district attorneys such as Kim Worthy famously said that, even actual innocence is not sufficient grounds for overturning a wrongful confession and therefore a conviction. It's bizarre. It's like a used car salesman, as I've said before. You've got the car, you took it away, you bought it, it's sold as seen, that's it, end of story. There's no comeback. Or is there? Because it's interesting, isn't it, in the sporting world. I'm a big fan, as you know, of the Green Bay Packers. I was very impressed when I first started watching American football, the fact that the coaches are allowed to throw a flag down to challenge a decision by the referee or the assistants, and that is then often reviewed on a big screen, in a booth where the referee actually has a look at it, and that's a system which has really taken off in most other sports. You're thinking cricket. The technology nowadays is fantastic, whereby they're trying to get the right result. Was the person out stumped? Did he touch? Did the ball hit the bat? Was it LBW? All these decisions are now going to third umpires in a booth where they've got the opportunity to look at it with technology. This year in football, they look at the offside decisions, to try and get it right. They look at penalty claims to try and get. They're not always right, but at least they're trying to do something about it. They're trying to make it fairer, to make it even. And if they have made a wrong decision, then they can go back and say that was a wrong decision. We had a situation where the French referee in the England-Wales game on review said, yeah, I've probably made a bad decision there. It doesn't change the result. I don't think these sporting events are really quite as important as wrongful convictions. I'm sure you'll agree with me. But as I say, even in sporting events, you get, for example, footballers sent off, and then their red cards are rescinded later on, so that red card doesn't count against them. It doesn't change the result, but at least it's the system is trying to get fairer, and that's all we're asking for with these wrongful convictions. I still suggest that Scotland should have some sort of conviction integrity unit, certainly over there in Wisconsin. They do in some towns, some cities, but they need to be pretty independent, because otherwise you will end up with foxes guarding the chicken house. And certainly in Luke's case, it needs this independent review of his case. Fortunately for Steve, Kathleen Zellner has got the state running scared now. all of their bad actions, bad faith decisions are all coming back to bite them. As I say, things have changed in the world of sport for the good, and they're getting better. And we just want the same in wrongful conviction world, you know. I mean, if there was an independent inquiry, and it was truly independent, like the Hillsborough disaster, and they were able to square the circle of, you know, how on earth is Luke Mitchell, this idiot savant, you know, idiot enough to lead the search party straight to Jodie's body, and yet brilliant enough to defy forensic science and to have no blood on him whatsoever, you know. And how the hell did he, on a summer's evening, you know, it's not late at night, how the hell did he walk from Roansdyke Path all the way to his house, where you've seen the houses? It's a very, very, you know, Newbattle Abbey Crescent is very, very open. Somebody would have seen somebody covered with that amount of blood on them. As I say, there's so much in this case that needs to be looked at. As I say, you do get the innocence deniers, the ones that say, well, you know, the game's been played, the referee made his decision, you have to live with that. I don't think that's how people see things now. I think stuff like making a murder in a small town, it's making people realise that mistakes happen, you know. Bizarrely, in Stephen's case, before he went to trial, Alan Lass, one of the politicians in Wisconsin, was trying to reintroduce the death penalty for those found guilty of murder based on DNA evidence. And of course, there's all this planted DNA evidence against Stephen Avery. That's one of the problems with DNA, isn't it? You know, that it can be planted. Difficult to remove blood spatter if you know, if you've done that sort of damage to Jodie Jones. As I say, the forensic science in this is the thing that's most troubling for me, as are of course the fact that it was so much trial by media that you know, that there is no chance that Steve definitely didn't. Stephen Brendan, that was trial by media. Luke Mitchell, trial by media. You know, it just corrupts the jury pool, the judges. It just corrupts the whole system. You know, the fact that there's a defendant there, the police have decided that's the person that's done it. Your job now is to, you know, not to find any doubt, reasonable doubt, just convict. We say he's guilty, just convict. As I say, people nowadays are questioning that. And finally, I removed some very, very offensive comments by one commenter who suggested that I was only doing videos to make money. Seriously, that's just ridiculous. And you lose all credibility when you start making personal attacks like that, because I can't take you seriously. You know, how on earth does anybody make any money out of doing this? You know, it's just bizarre. Anyway, we'll catch you all again soon. Take care. Bye for now.